All right. So, guys, I've got an interesting conversation to have today. In the past, these meetings have always been, educational and informative, and I've always found something valuable to bring back to my branch. And, they've made me a better manager. And so I want that for you as well. But I also wanted to do things a little bit differently. And so today I've got, a little bit more of a metaphor, right? And a metaphor is something that describes a thing and you can relate it to and make correlations and similarities between the two. And hopefully you leave having learned a great lesson, right? And so today's metaphor is about Rubik's Cubes. Right. And Rubik's Cube is a kid's toy that you're probably familiar with. And, it's made of 26 individual smaller cubes and they all rotate on three axes. And so you can turn it this way, or you can turn it this way, or you can turn it this way. Right. And so there's a lot of different arrangements of the different cubes that make up a Rubik's Cube. Right. In fact, there's over 43 quintillion different arrangements of the various squares on the face of a Rubik's cube, right? So this simple kid's toy is actually quite a complex device, right? In fact, only about 6% of all the people in the world can solve a Rubik's cube. So many of you know I've got a 7-year-old boy at home, all right? And his name is Isaac, and a couple of years ago he got really interested in these things, and they make a good stocking stuffer. So he got one year, and so anyway, one day we're sitting down and we're playing with the Rubik's Cube. And, as a father, I'm always looking to find the life lesson in just about anything, right? And maybe some of you dads can relate to that. And I've definitely been accused of being overly philosophical at times, right? But so we're sitting and we're playing with the Rubik's Cube, and I'm looking at it and I think to myself, a Rubik's Cube is a lot like life, right? Because when you're born, and when I think back to when Isaac was born, he's this tiny, helpless, innocent, beautiful baby boy, right? And he's perfect. And we're all born perfect, right? And then we grow up and we start making decisions, right? And it's the relationships that we make and it's the choices that we make in life that ultimately wind up with us being something less than perfect, right? And we're all human. We all make mistakes, and heaven knows I've made more than my share, right? Maybe I took my eye off of this part of the business, and so we perform as an associate struggling because I didn't give him the training or the tools and surround him with the support that he needed to be successful. Okay. Or maybe I made a mistake on inventory and it had a consequence on the P&L that resulted in the branch missing profit plan. Right. And any one of 1,000 different mistakes that I've made in my career. But raise your hand if you've never made a mistake, right? We're all less than perfect. Okay, so I'm sitting and I'm playing with the Rubik's Cube with Isaac, and I take it upon myself and I say, I would really love to be able to solve one of these things, right? Because when you're a kid and you're growing up and you see one sitting on the table, and so you pick it up and you start turning it and you're twisting it and you're playing with it and you're like, oh, this is pretty fun, right? And so you play with it for a minute or two, or maybe 3 minutes or so, and inevitably you're going to get stuck, right? And you put it down and you're like, let me just go do something else, right? Because we have a tendency to give up on these things pretty quickly, right? And has that ever been you at Terminix? Or if not you, have you ever seen somebody at Terminix who's, got a good idea and they've got the ambition and, you know, they make a plan and they start down the path to executing that plan and they come into an obstacle and they get stuck, right? And the machine just keeps chugging forward and they just kind of give up on it and move on to something else, right? Because a Rubik's Cube is a complex device, all right? And you could think, maybe if I just turn it enough or twist it in this way, maybe I could get lucky and, maybe I could solve it. Right? Because solving a Rubik's Cube is when you get all the whites on one side and all the blues on the blue side and all the yellows on the yellow side and you sort of make them all match, right? And you might think that maybe you could make that happen by luck, right? Think about the probabilities of that. right? Like you're a new manager, you come into Terminix and you're like with a business and let me see what happens when I try this and maybe I'll turn it this way and maybe you get a side solved and oh hey look I've got a couple colors here and that's pretty good like I've got some money streaming into my termite side and it looks like I'm gonna you know beat last year in termite revenue and not bad, right? But if you want to make a successful enterprise, right, and build long-term success for you and your family and for the people that you work with, right, you need to solve all the sides of the Rubik's Cube, right? And they're all different facets of your business. Imagine trying to solve a Rubik's Cube by luck, right? Like, let me just turn it like this and, let me twist it this way. And, maybe if you sat long enough, and I'm talking years, right? But maybe if you sat long enough, you could, play around with it and, maybe you could learn a few things about how Rubik's Cubes work and, maybe you could get lucky and figure it out, right? But it's going to be tough, right? Because when you solve one side of a Rubik's Cube, you screw up the other sides and, well, it's a complicated device, just like your business, right? And, another way that you could solve a Rubik's Cube is you could say, I noticed these stickers here and I wonder if I could just peel them off and carefully put them back on in the right order. And, well, that would be cheating, right? But you could make it work that way, right? Or you could break a Rubik and, turn it into a bunch of pieces and try to put it back together so that it's solved, right? Just take a hammer and smash it into pieces and try to reassemble it. Like if you're running your branch and you're like, I don't know, let me see if I can find a shortcut or let me see if I can break the rules or break this thing and try to put it back together. Right? People have tried to do that, but guess what? If you walked into my office and you saw this Rubik's Cube with the stickers half falling off of it and you looked at it, you'd know, right? You'd know just by looking at it. And you'd say, Jeremy cheated, right? He took that Rubik's Cube apart and he put the stickers back on and he cheated, right? And if you look at a business that's involved somehow in, you know, um, finding ways around the rules or involved somehow in shortcutting to get to wherever it is they want to go faster, right? Try to achieve their goals faster, and you look at that business, you'll see it, right? Just like you can see the stickers peeling off the Rubik's Cube, if you look closely enough you'll see it and you'll know that person cheated, right? And everybody knows that you're trying to do the right thing and you're just trying to run a successful business, but there's no shortcuts to success, right? You've got to find a way to avoid making the mistakes, and you need to find a way to start making better decisions, right? Now, the real way to solve a Rubik's Cube, and I'll tell you, the real way to be successful at Terminix is to find a process, right? Or find a person that's done it before, right? And discover the process that led to their success, right? And find what they used. And there's something in Rubik's cubes called algorithms. And an algorithm is where it says, turn it one turn this way and make that side, turn this way. And you just kind of follow along and so on until you make it all match. Right. And so I went on YouTube and I looked up a video on how to solve a Rubik's Cube. And you know what? I followed the steps. And as I followed the steps, I started making fewer mistakes. And as you're making fewer mistakes and you're making better decisions and maybe the branch starts hitting its numbers, all right, and things start getting a little bit easier and you have some success, right? Before you know it, things start coming together and you end up getting a couple of colors like that, right? And so you follow the process, and as you're following the steps and continuing through the process, a weird, strange thing starts to happen. What started off as kind of a blind faith, right? Just a pure determination, right? And enthusiasm, right? It begins to turn into a confident conviction, right? And your team starts to feed off of that and they start to perform, right? And they start to buy in, they see your confidence and they start to genuinely buy in to the process. And, you know, things start to get a little bit easier and the branch starts performing and, you make mistakes, right? Along the way, we're all human, right? And none of us are perfect. And sometimes even the best decisions can be a little bit messy, right? And guys, nobody's perfect, right? But and I'm not here to tell you that I've got it all figured out because I don't. All right. Uh, I do know this though, right? If you can make enough of the right decisions, right, and you can avoid making the mistakes, right, you can get your life and you can get your business all the way back to perfect again. And so I followed the process, right, step by step. And it took me a while, but look what I got, right? Like if I started with a business that looked like this, right? Or maybe this is me starting off at Terminix, and I just said, you know, let me just try a couple things here, and I'll twist it this way, and oh hey, I got a couple greens on this side, but these sides don't match, and that's not too good, and I got these two blues over here, but I give up, right? Or I could follow a process and listen to somebody who's done it before, who's developed a system to make something like this, right? And you can do that at Terminix as well. Guys, you don't have to just play around with something like this to make it work. All right. And a lot of us are in a place right now where we're trying to build something special, right? We want to build that long-term success for the people that we work with and for ourselves. And, we want to build something that we're proud of. Right. Well, I'm proud of this. That's cool. This is potential, right? But this is success. Right? This is potential, and you can play around with potential all you want. But until you follow a trusted process from somebody who's done it before, right? That's when this happens. All right. And so for the rest of the day, guys, we're going to have, a bunch of the people here in this room are going to be sharing. And I want to thank you in advance for, your participation and your leadership today, and helping me make this happen. But we're going to be hearing some of the best processes that the managers with the most success at Terminix have used to get to where they are. And so while you're here in this room today, I want you to be, present in this moment. So, put your phones on mute and put them away. All right. The emails and the phone calls and the text messages, they can all wait. All right. We're going to have some plenty of breaks later on where you can circle back and get caught up. But while you're here in this room, I want you to be leaning in, connect with somebody that you don't know. All right. Pay close attention and take good notes. Do not let your ego get in the way of making the most out of your time here today. Okay. So before we get into all that though, I'm what we're going to do for the next 30 minutes or so is all of you have a scrambled up Rubik's Cube in front of you, and I want you to pair up with your partner in your branch. So branch and service managers in the same office, I want you to, get together on the same team and, and I want you to work together and use any means necessary to solve your Rubik's Cube. So, jump on YouTube and find a video like I did, or Google instructions, or I printed out, a cheat sheet for you, right? But I want you to follow the process. There's no cheating here. I want you to follow the process and solve your Rubik's Cube, right? And so, the first team to solve their Rubik's Cube, I will for your branch meeting in September, I'll come out and we'll have a cookout, we'll have a good time, and you'll be able to tell everybody in your office that the reason that we're able to celebrate the way that we are is because you solved a Rubik's Cube. And somebody today is going to learn how to do this, and I want everybody to learn how to solve a Rubik's Cube because it's as simple as following And, I don't know if we're going to have time here in the next 30 minutes or so, but before the end of this day is over, you're going to have your puzzle put together.